And I'm going to go ahead and make you host.
Thank you. So
welcome
Notice
everybody. Your screen, do you see a line at the bottom that says that you're sharing, but you could hide that little? There
yes.
you go.
Yeah. Okay. So it looks like a lot of people are joining right now, but we're going to go ahead and start. This is the July statewide task force meeting. Here's our agenda, and you'll see this multiple times throughout the meeting as we go through the agenda items. We are the League of Women Voters, and we're dedicated to harassment-free environment, and we want to have productive dialogue. We try to speak with one voice. So you all signed up for these sorts of things when you checked off at registration. So we'll move on. Here's what happened at the last meeting. I hear ding ding. I hope somebody's letting everybody in.
I am.
Thank you. Okay, we discussed the Denver. Actually, there are two proposals. We'll continue that discussion today. We had Denver Deserves Democracy speaker Landon Mascarenas, and then we also heard about the Courageous Colorado Listening Tour. We're one of the organizations involved with that. There may be more than 3 at this point. Landon is also with that organization. We heard some updates on legislation, and the past meeting videos and slides can always be found at that location. So now we'll do introductions. How do I stop sharing my screen?
You should be able to look.
Stop share. There we go. Okay. I see some new faces. This is great. My name is Celeste, and I'm the facilitator for this meeting, and happy to have all of you here. Pat, do you want to go next?
Okay, I'll try to talk and admit people at the same time. I'm Pat Venturo. I'm a member of the voting methods team for Boulder County, have been for a long time, and love listening to everybody talk about wonderful alternative voting methods.
I said when I was talking to Jane, who got us into this meeting from the office, I said that we have 3 former state league presidents on this call. And Betsy, would you like to introduce yourself as the first one to do introductions? Maybe. Oh, maybe. Are you having problems speaking, Betsy? Betsy now lives in Idaho and is co-president of the Idaho League. So maybe we'll move on from Betsy. Hope you get your computer issues taken care of. Tony, you are the second of the 3 former league presidents. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Tony Larson, and I'm a member of the league in Denver, and I do most of my activities at the state level. And yes, I was the state president twice, and I also served on the national board.
Anybody else want to call on people? I'm happy to call on people, but Britta, would you like to go next?
I'm Britta Singer. I live in Boulder County, and I'm here because I know Celeste, and she's so enthusiastic about voting. How could I not be?
Thank you, Britta. Judy Weaver, would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, there we go. Yes, I'm Judy Weaver. I'm with the Larimer League, and I am just here for information. I am not part of the Larimer committee, and I don't see anybody here from there.
We're happy to have you be a representative of that group. Vicki, would you like to? you're muted.
Hi, I am new to this group, but I am the liaison for the Mesa County Co-League now, as we have officially made that change. And I want to find out more about alternate voting and how to do that and what all's involved.
Who's the president or facilitator, or I don't know what term you use, of the Mesa County? Is that you now?
That's me.
And did you say co-facilitator?
A co-league, that's the member at large unit. So we've
Okay.
just officially made that switch.
So I'm trying to remember the name of the previous person who was
Jan Mormon.
Jan. Yes, thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, she's great. Okay.
Yes, yes, she is.
And I saw that you are a retired or a lieutenant colonel with the U.S. Air Force. That was pretty impressive.
Retired, yeah.
Yes, retired, but still. Thank you for serving.
And I
Frank.
think everybody in the league is serving also.
We all serve in our own ways, but some people put their life on the line more than others.
And thank you, Vicky, for that.
You're welcome.
Frank Atwood.
Good evening. I'm Frank Atwood. I happen to be chair of the Approval Voting Party, a recognized Colorado minor party and advocate for approval voting, formerly with the Libertarians, and currently pushing for enabling legislation from both the state legislature and hopefully getting federal officials willing to endorse alternative voting methods, especially approval voting.
Thank you, Frank. Dylan Rankin.
I'm Dylan. I'm the executive director of ranked choice voting for Longmont, and I'm here to hopefully give you all a little presentation on the alternative voting method that we're hoping to propose here in our Boulder County town.
Wonderful. Blake Huber.
Good afternoon or good evening, everybody. My name is Blake Huber. I met this guy named Frank several years ago, and he introduced me to this concept that I thought was just crazy. I thought he was stupid. I told him, Frank, don't do this. Yes, we need electoral college reform, but the concept was approval voting. I've run for office a couple of times for approval voting. I simply want to bring people together.
Thanks, Blake. Neil.
Hi.
Why don't we let you work on your audio, and we'll go to Mark Bonhorst and then Arias. Is that how you pronounce your name? Okay.
Hi, I'm Mark Bonhorst, visiting from Minneapolis chapter of Minnesota League. Always interested in what you folks are talking about.
And Mark testified in the state legislature on a couple bills. Yes, thank you. Yes. Arias, did I pronounce? Okay.
I call myself Arias.
Arias, okay.
I live in Denver. I've just been joined the League of Women Voters and hoping to, yeah, I've just always thought ranked choice voting made sense. And so I'm just interested in what we have going on.
Great. And if you ask a lot of questions, if you don't know what's going on with the Denver thing, or contribute if you do know more than we know about what's going on. So I don't see Patty Cordova, who's the league member who is planning to answer questions about it. Tony might not know that much about it, but we'll see how it goes. Neil.
Testing. How's this?
Great.
Thank you. So I've been Neil McBurnett. I've been active in voting methods since the 1990s, first with ranked methods and now with proportional representation and approval voting and star voting for that matter. And I've also been very active in election integrity and election auditing since about 2002. I'm the league representative to the Bipartisan Election Advisory Commission that the Secretary of State runs in Colorado.
Great. We appreciate you working on that. So thanks. Sue Ryden. I know this isn't your first meeting.
Hi, everyone. I'm not a member of the league. I am a member of AAUW, and I'm a former state representative. So I'm just gathering information, hearing what you all are working on.
Always happy to have visitors as well as members. And Patty Cordova. Is that Patty Cordova there? It's been a while since I've
Yes,
seen you in person.
I think my audio's on, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I took a while to find this link because I have a lot of emails from you and everything. But anyhow, yeah, I'm past president of Colorado League of Women Voters and Denver League, not in that order. And I was on a committee in 2020 which we passed a resolution, a choice voting resolution at our Denver League of Women Voters annual meeting. Ranked choice voting is full of a lot of whereases. But the basic thing is that, and therefore may it be resolved that the 2020 annual meeting of the League of Women Voters of Denver position that supports authorizing and implementing alternatives to plurality voting and urges the Denver City Council to take the necessary steps to implement RCV for use in all municipal elections. So that made it to the council, but they didn't do much. But I think now they're starting to do much, and I'm kind of pulled back in after 5 years of not being so involved with League anymore. But with other things. Thanks, Celeste, for getting this together.
Thanks so much for attending. And we were touting the fact that there are 3 former state league presidents on this call, you and Betsy McBride and Tony Larson. So it's a little reunion.
Yep.
So welcome, everybody.
Betsy. Yeah.
Betsy, do you want to try talking, see if you have any audio?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay. Okay, we'll go ahead and start our meeting. Patty, are you okay being second on the agenda with the Denver stuff? And
what do you mean Denver stuff? I haven't done anything to prepare for tonight.
Okay, I have some slides and I sent them to you, and as we go through, if you see something that's incorrect, let us know. If you think it should be phrased differently, we can change it. But
Okay.
I'll go ahead and start sharing slides. Okay, here we go. Okay, we just did introductions, and so here's some just general news. Somebody has a loud noise. The League of Women Voters of Maine, last time I mentioned that they conducted a study, and they did in fact vote in June to adopt a position statement. I assume it's the one that they proposed, and they didn't change it, but I haven't actually checked that. So, but that was what they were going to adopt. And then just an update on our state league's primary election reform study. We approved this study a while back, and we thought it was important because so many elections are effectively decided in the primary. So we want to look at different primary types. For instance, there was Prop 131, which would have had all candidate primaries. There are other options too. And then you can have expressive voting methods to increase the chance that the election outcome matches the will of the electorate. We're about 90% of the way done with that study report draft. So if you want to get involved with this, let us know. We hope to send it to state membership for consensus meetings sometime in the near future. And I want to give a shout out to Marcus Ogren for doing so much work on it. We'll move on to upcoming events, not necessarily league events. Fair Vote Canada does a PR 101 webinar the 15th of every month, except for 2 months in the summer. And it's a presentation and Q&A, so you're welcome to go to that if you have questions about proportional representation. They're not associated with Fair Vote United States. So Fair Vote US spells it as one word. Fair Vote Canada is 3 words. Fair Vote Canada, or maybe just 2 words if they write Fair Vote. An interesting thing is happening this November. There is a county commissioner, District 5 in El Paso County, resigned and was filled by a vacancy committee. And there's a new law, House Bill 1319, that means that vacancy committee for counties with 50,000 active voters only get to name that replacement until the November odd year election. And then this November, there's going to be an election paid for by the governors, a special election, but only Republicans can be candidates and only Republicans and unaffiliated voters can vote in the contest. We, as the League of Women Voters, testified to change the bill to allow everyone to vote and anyone to run. So we're following this. Maybe there'll be a lawsuit saying this shouldn't be allowed. There was a companion bill for state legislators that would do the same thing, and a lot of state legislators have gotten their positions through vacancy committees. So, in fact, 4 senators have gotten their positions since the November election. So those 4, if the state legislator bill were in effect, it goes into effect in 2 years. If it were in effect, you'd have 4 state senators having to run, but they wouldn't let everybody vote. So that is probably, it seems clearly unconstitutional. And this companion bill also seems very problematic. So we're keeping an eye on it. Okay, I'm moving on to the next slide. So, oops, that should be prospects, not propex. So the New York City's Charter Revision Commission has heard more comments about changing its elections than about any other topic. They seem to think that the ranked voting that they're using is working okay, but they're considering some other changes, like maybe moving to Alaska's all candidate primary, where you use instant runoff voting in the general, or maybe Seattle's upcoming election, where they use a form of ranked voting and they keep eliminating people until there are 2 left. And those 2 go on to the general. So I don't know what's going to happen, but people are interested in New York City. And then they're also talking about changing to even year elections. And you may have followed the New York City election, where Mamdani won the Democratic primary, beating out Cuomo. But it turns out Cuomo has said he's going to run in the general election too, under another party's line. And Eric Adams, the current incumbent, is running. It's going to be an interesting election. People are not really talking that much about the fact that they used instant runoff voting for their primary. Although I think I have a lot of opinions, but let's move on with our meeting. I wanted to let everybody know that the Pro Rep Coalition, which is based in California, is planning to run a 2026 statewide ballot measure to use a proportional voting method in elections for the California state legislature. It's not clear if they would use the proportional form, ranked voting form, or if they would use like an open party list, but thought I'd let you know about that. Our next regular meeting date is August 18th from 5:30 to 7. And I hope everybody can make it. And here's our national position. And the boldface part talks about electing policy-making bodies like legislatures, councils, commissions, and this National League supports proportional representation. And one of the great things about proportional representation is that gerrymandering becomes irrelevant. So it's worth looking at, and that's the first thing on our topic today. Does anybody have any questions before I jump into this? Well, somebody say hi. So I can't see anybody, so want to know people are still there.
Hello. Question.
Question, yes.
So this is Blake. It came up when they went to this new form of voting in primaries. I asked the question, if you're a Libertarian, a Green, approval voting party member, or any other alternative voter, will you be able to vote in primaries as an unaffiliated? And I was resoundingly told no, because you've already committed to a party. They considered that, but decided to eject us, basically.
Which election are you talking about, or which proposal?
So this was the proposal a couple of years ago when they wanted to go to the current system, like for vacancy committees. If a person runs it for a vacancy committee, only that party can elect him, or unaffiliated voters. So in essence, a person who belongs to who is a voter in an alternative voting party, alternative type party, Libertarian, Green, no labels, forward, approval voting, any of those folks would have to change their registration probably 90 days before the election in order to take part in that election. So I agree with Celeste, with the League of Women Voters of Boulder County, that this may be unconstitutional. Neil feels feel the same way. But of course, Neil, you're quoting federal legislation, a federal constitution, not state, and all election laws are state except for federal offices. So Celeste, any comments?
So up until this bill passed and its companion bill, if a Democrat resigned, then a Democratic vacancy committee picked the replacement. And that's still true, but now the Democratic Party vacancy committee only gets to replace until the November odd year election. Similarly, if a Republican resigned, I think it would also be true if a Libertarian resigned. There was a Steve Lebsack who was going to be expelled from the state house, and 2 hours before the expulsion vote, he changed from Democrat to Republican, and Alex Winkler, or what you know who I'm talking about.
Skinny Winkler.
Skinny Winkler, yeah. He got chosen to replace the Steve Lebsack, because Steve Lebsack was a Republican when he was expelled. So they picked a Republican vacancy committee to replace. But whatever party affiliation you are, when you are leaving the office, that party's vacancy committee gets to replace you. If you are running in a nonpartisan office, the only one I know of that's not like school board or city council is RTD Board of Directors. And there you name your vacancy committee when you fill in your candidate application. So, so I think you're talking about something that's a little different.
No, actually, not to interrupt, but just you mentioned it before that Republicans and unaffiliated voters can vote, and you think that's wrong, and there could be a lawsuit. I'm backing you up.
Great.
With my experience, I've been told that no, if you declare a party, you're not unaffiliated.
Right.
And I think that violates the Colorado Constitution, not necessarily the national Constitution.
Okay. You should have a chat with Mark Bonhorst, because he's been reading the constitutions and we'd love to chat with you. So I can put you two in touch with each other.
Thank you. I would love that.
And I can't actually see anybody, so I apologize for not reading any visual cues. I'm on a new computer and I don't have it all figured out how to do this. Was there anything else people wanted to say, or shall we move on to the letter that we talked about writing at the May meeting? This was Landon Mascarenas said, well, have you written a letter to the Secretary of State? We've talked to them about various things. I don't know if we've actually written a letter saying signed by multiple people. So that's what we're talking about right here. And I sent a copy of this draft letter to Landon. So let's talk about it. First of all, just in case people don't know what a ranked voting ballot looks like, you can fill in one box in each column, one box in each row. Your first choice is the one that counts the most, or is guaranteed to count. And then if that candidate is eliminated, or then your vote can go to your second choice. And if it's a multi-winner proportional form, then they have a way of transferring part of the surplus of your vote to your second choice if your first choice gets elected with extra votes. So we also have an article that was published in the Fulcrum, and it's about all the different kinds of RCV. So we're going to talk mostly about two kinds today. We're going to talk about proportional ranked voting, also known as proportional RCV, also known as single transferable vote. But proportional ranked voting seems like a nice, easy term that's understandable. So that's the term that's on these slides. So in terms of this letter, we're addressing it to multiple Secretary of State officials. If you think we need to add somebody else or take somebody off, let us know. It's going to hopefully be signed by multiple organizations, including the Courageous Colorado Coalition. The Working Families Party is part of that coalition. I'm not sure if we're going to get a political party, if we want them to sign on to it with us or not. I don't know how that works, but all organizations that are working on electoral reform and interested in representation. And I think that RCV for Longmont should also sign on to this letter because this is of serious interest to your group, Dylan. The specific thing that we care about is asking them to help us figure out, like, what are the steps to implement where we can offer to help. And while you're going ahead and implementing or writing the rules and procedures for implementing the proportional ranked voting, approval voting is so easy, but the county clerks won't do it unless the Secretary of State writes the rules. So we'd like that also. And here's an example of an approval voting ballot. It's so simple. Instead of vote for one, you can vote for all the candidates you support, no matter how many get elected, and the tallying is just like plurality. The candidate with the most votes wins. This way you don't split your vote among two candidates that are similar. You can vote for both of them. It's very transparent. It's very easy, and county clerks should be able to, could do this already, but they just want the blessing of the Secretary of State. So the last thing is that a backup plan or a parallel plan is to pass enabling proportional ranked voting legislation. This is what happened with the instant runoff voting. Boulder adopted it in 2020, but we weren't going to start using it until we had enabling legislation requiring the county clerks to run it. And fortunately, House Bill 21-1071 passed. So now the Secretary of State has those rules for at least single county cities, not yet multi-county cities like Littleton and Aurora. For those of you who aren't familiar, HB 21-1071 means House Bill. The year was 2021, and the bill number was 1071. Still with me here?
Yes.
Okay. So the three things that it seems like are necessary steps to adopt and implement PRV are to certify software. The Secretary of State does that for Colorado. To figure out how to do audits, because we're not able to do audits of proportional ranked voting election. We can do it for instant runoff voting, which is single winner, but not for the multi-winner version. And to plead with the Secretary of State to promulgate official rules and procedures, because the county clerks are waiting for that guidance. They're willing to conduct elections as you know, people want them to, but they don't want to go out on their own and do it. So we really need the help of the Secretary of State. So a few things about proportional representation and post-election audits. Neil should probably actually be doing this since he's the expert on risk limiting audits. He's the reason Colorado is a pioneer on risk limiting audits. He and the county clerks that were willing to try it out are the reason. So proportional representation is such a big win for better representation for voters that we shouldn't be holding proportional voting methods hostage to risk limiting audits. If we wanted to do proportional by party, like maybe the Pro-Rep Coalition is going to do in California, then you can do a risk limiting audit. That's not a problem.
Let me just say that you say it's not a problem. Mathematically, it's not a problem. Practically, it might end up with such tiny margins that you'd kind of always be looking at a hand count. It would depend on what the elections looked like. And so I agree with what you've said so far, Celeste. That makes sense. But I think the main point is to say we can do a lot. We can do enough auditing for any of these methods, kind of to have a lot of confidence that the result is better than you would have gotten with one of those tired old voting methods. And that's the way I like to look at it. We can still do auditing. Limiting the risk as a technical matter is hard. Knowing that you got exactly the right answer might be hard, but you at least can be pretty confident that you've been proportional, and that's what the goal should be.
So just to let people know, kind of in a very small nutshell, how risk limiting audits work, instead of picking like 10% of the precincts or, you know, a certain 15,000 votes to audit or something like that, a risk limiting audit looks at the margin between the winner and the next person as reported, and then pulls out, chooses randomly a statistical number of ballots needed to meet the risk limit. So if it's a 5% risk limit, that means there's a 95% chance that if the audit passes the RLA, then there's a 95% chance that the outcome is correct. Did I say that right, Neil?
Well, it's awfully close. There is at most, and I really want to emphasize at most, there's at most a 5% risk that the sample just didn't catch an error if there was an error. And so you have to factor all those things in. And it's really kind of the current gold standard for those kinds of elections. And, you know.
But when even Neil says that we shouldn't hold proportional representation hostage to risk limiting audits, you know, proportional representation is a good thing because he's the RLA guy. So as we said, PR is better than RLAs. and or more important, or however you want to say it. And the opposite of a proportional voting method is a winner-take-all voting method, and all single winner contests are winner-take-all. So every district council member in Denver is a single winner, winner-take-all election. There are also some semi-proportional multi-winner voting methods, cumulative voting, often used in the South to remedy Voting Rights Act challenges, is one example. The more proportional a voting method is, the more votes will count toward a winner. In other words, the fewer wasted votes there are in an election. So PR is clearly better than winner-take-all methods. Okay. Back to, so in terms of risk limiting audits, the nice thing is that you're not looking at 15,000 ballots. If the margin is big, you don't have to look at as many ballots. If the margin of victory is small, then yeah, you have to look at more ballots. And if there's an error found, you might have to look at another batch. You have to investigate what the error was, and then you might have to pull some more to do another run. So, okay. So here is the next few slides are a draft letter to the Secretary of State. This letter is directed to currently Jenna Griswold, Judd Choate, Jesse Romero, and Dwight Shellman. Can all of you read this? This first part is intro, but it says, we, the undersigned organizations, are writing to you today to clarify the steps necessary for county clerks to conduct an election using non-plurality voting method. House Bill 21-1071 set up a path for county clerks to conduct instant runoff ranked voting elections for single winner municipalities and in the near future, multi-county municipalities. Our organizations support electoral reforms that lead to good representation of the electorate and promote effective votes as opposed to wasted votes. The gold standard for electing a representative body such as a council, commission, or legislature is a proportional voting method. Although 1-7-1003 Colorado Revised Statutes authorizes the use of multi-winner proportional ranked voting, which is abbreviated PRV here, for statutory cities, county clerks are not required to coordinate such elections. We would like to understand the obstacles for adoption and implementation of PRV and offer assistance with overcoming the obstacles. We could look at this whole letter and then people could make comments. We could look at it one slide at a time. You can say one and then we can change our mind. Anybody have an opinion they want to express? Is anybody there?
Yeah, we're here.
That's
We're thinking. I go for one at a time so we can get a full idea.
Okay, and I would say that what we're trying to do is to get the Secretary of State to do something, and that a lot of this other information, if we're directing it to the Secretary of State and the staff people there, we don't need to do a whole heck of a lot of detail because they know what we're talking about.
Yes. I mean, I think we need to say something about our organizations and why these organizations signed on.
That's absolutely right. But again, I mean, the first sentence of the second paragraph should be something like, we want you to do some regulations. Get at it.
So let's look at the next section, which is in bigger font, because I think this is the bulk of our ask. So it says, please correct, clarify, or confirm the statements below describing our understanding of the PRV situation in Colorado. The software license that Colorado purchases to run instant runoff voting elections has a toggle switch to change from a one winner instant runoff voting election to an N winner PRV election. So the software is readily available now at no extra cost to the state. However, the SOS has not yet certified the PRV portion of the software to its standards. So we would need the SOS to certify that portion of the software. So there are 4 items here. The second item is ballot layout is not an obstacle because IRV and PRV ballot layouts are identical. So we don't even need to worry about that one, but it's just listed there because somebody might think it's an obstacle. This next bullet point talks about Neil. They all know Neil at the Secretary of State's office and the Elections Department, at least. Risk limiting audit expert Neil McBurnett says it's enormously challenging, even with computers, to do an RLA of a PRV election with more than 2 winners. And even the 2-winner PRV election has to be very simple, e.g., not too many viable candidates, and 1 candidate has to reach threshold in the first round. I don't know if that's actually true or what, Neil. So we should not plan on having an RLA of a PRV election. Election Rule 26.9 states that election administrators must audit each ranked voting race in a manner that will not interfere with the RLA audit required by Section 17515 CRS. That statute, 17515, explicitly mentions IRV, but will probably need to be updated to allow appropriate audits for PRV, which they used to have in Rule 2610 of the 2018 version. I think now 26.9 is the last rule of the larger 26 rule.
See, Betsy has her hand up. Go, Betsy.
So if the Secretary of State's staff understands all this, then great. But it seems to me like it's missing why you should do this. That is the sort of political argument for how Colorado would benefit, how the Secretary of State's office would benefit. There's a lot of technical points, but it doesn't feel politically persuasive to my ears.
So I had a similar thought, like, and maybe it's more just for marketing, like we could send this letter out to the media and say, this is what we've asked. And so at the end of the letter, we could put this, I'm showing this slide right here, this list of the advantages of proportional representation. Is this what you were thinking, Betsy?
Sure. And yes, why this? I mean, you said they could do it. You've pointed out some of the semi-barriers that are not necessarily barriers, but you know, how will the voters, why will Colorado be better off? How can Colorado lead by example? What are the,
So you go to their pride. I mean, Colorado piloted risk limiting audits. We could pilot proportional ranked voting. I mean, I don't think they're, I mean, I'd be thrilled if we elected our state legislature using a proportional voting method. I'd be thrilled, but, and so maybe, I don't, what do people think?
So I'm along with Betsy. I mean, what we need to do is sort of a simple one pager, if you will, and Celeste, you've heard that from me before. And you could put all the details in an addendum And if people care to read all the details, then it's there for the press or whoever. But you just need to get to the point, as Betsy says, that people need to know what the benefit is and why this is important to Colorado. And, and then you can bring up all the things that need to be said that are details.
So one of the things is that I'm hearing different people say different things. Some people are saying, oh, we can already do proportional ranked voting in Colorado. We don't have to worry about it. I mean, it is true that it's in 1-7-1003, but it's not true that county clerks will do it. So, I mean, part of this is to make sure that all the groups that sign are on the same page. But what do you recommend we do, Tony? Do you want to work with us on writing, like reformatting this letter into a one-pager, more of a marketing letter? I actually thought Landon had agreed to write this letter, and then I was going to work on the, adding any details or maybe the addendum, but he ended up not doing that. I guess he had a different assumption. He thought we were worrying about audits, and since Denver.
Okay.
Anyway.
So, yeah, I think you need to streamline the basic message and have it right up there, right in front of people that are going to receive this. And
how about?
Yes, you could say something about the organizations and that we've studied this for 100 years and so forth and so on. And then the detailed stuff you're talking about, Colorado revised statutes and book and so forth and so on, you put in as an addendum that proves your point.
Okay.
That's what I would do.
Okay. So do you want to do that, or do you want somebody else to do that and run it by you? Are you still there, Tony?
You're muted, Tony, if you're trying to talk to
I
us.
know. I guess I was trying to hide what I was going to say. No, I think it would be great if somebody else would write it and then run it by me.
Okay. Maybe Betsy and I could work on it, or at least 3-4 people saw this before today's meeting. So, including Neil, since his name was on here.
And Neil has his hand up.
Okay, Neil.
Yeah, thanks. I agree that providing them with arguments that play to their interests is helpful, politics as well as pride. And in that connection, actually, I would avoid mentioning the two-party dominance fighting that PR does, because we just saw in the way the legislature passed the vacancy legislation that they're pretty much two parties intent on retaining dominance. I'll just also note that I still need to check that that threshold question, whether you need to reach threshold in the first round. And actually, it would be best to send this by Vanessa and Michelle, who write the papers on this stuff.
So last quick comment.
Yeah.
So this is Blake again. We have actually gone to city governments to ask for this type of thing. First, we went to the Secretary of State to ask for instructions on how approval voting could be used in a municipal election. And they said, well, let's have a municipality ask us for those instructions. And so we've done that. But I'm wondering if any municipalities have actually requested PRV, and maybe that's an avenue to get to the Secretary of State. By the way, I'm going to leave in about 10 minutes. Thank you very much for inviting me. I really enjoy being here, but I do have another commitment. So go ahead.
Okay,
please.
so to answer your question, the town of Superior asked the Secretary of State, the county clerk, would you run a PRV election? They said no. No, we don't have to. Nope, we're not going to do it. You can do it yourself.
I mean, that's one example. There may be others that would be willing. I don't want to
Right.
eliminate the possibility they might do it or suggest
Well,
there's no possibility. But I think this is a good idea, and I think those avenues make sense.
I haven't heard of any, and I've heard of ones that don't want to do it. I mean, the Boulder County clerk has Superior, has Longmont, has Boulder. So I know that Longmont and Boulder are both talking about proportional ranked voting. So we definitely need to get this, need to get the Boulder County clerk on board. And the Boulder County clerk, by the way, is president of the County Clerks Association right now. So influential person. Okay. If there are no more hands up, I'm going to go to the next bullet point, which is about county clerks and how they don't want to conduct a PRV election until the SOS has promulgated rules and procedures.
I think she is a past president, no longer president of the county association.
Okay, I thought she was the future president, and by now she's the current, but I don't know. Okay.
I could be wrong.
So anyway, after the last bullet point, it says the need for software certification and promulgation of rules and procedures has also been cited for reluctance to conduct an approval voting election. Blake said that some jurisdiction, I think you might mean Littleton, has asked for those rules, but it's different from what happened in Boulder. In Boulder, they actually adopted instant runoff voting. In Littleton, they talked about, is this possible? They didn't actually say we want to adopt it. So it's the chicken or the egg. Sometimes you have to pass things that are not yet legal and then ask for the rules and procedures to, legal's the wrong word, because it's in the state statutes. It is legal, but the county clerks aren't required to run those elections. So
are we having to vote on the bill before we read the bill? I'm sorry, that's a bad joke.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Anyway, we'll work on this and get Tony a copy and Betsy a copy and anybody else who lets me know right now verbally that they want to read it. And we'll also see what Courageous Colorado thinks. And anyway, that's what we need.
Celeste, can that slide that lists all the benefits? Yeah, that how can I access that? Just after the meeting to go to the slides?
Yeah, it's not in I added it after I downloaded the slides, so I have to send it to you again. These are actually lists that we've compiled from Pat Venturo has done a lot of this work, but I can just send you this list, or you could do a print screen right now, copy print screen. But I'll send it to you, Betsy.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. That's it for the letter to the Secretary of State. Thanks for your comments. I think we'll end up with a good letter. We do need to talk to Courageous Colorado. Dylan, what are your thoughts about signing on to such a letter as the RCV for Longmont? Do you think they'd be interested?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely do think that eventually at some point there are going to have to be some regulatory or statutory changes to make PRV logistically feasible for Longmont and for other Colorado municipalities. So I actually talked to, and I think I mentioned this to you in an email, Celeste. I talked to Stephanie Nyoza of the Boulder County Clerk's Office, and she was much more confident that the Boulder County, that her office and the division of her office that she runs would be willing to accommodate a PRV election and run one, if Longmont chose to do that. So, we talked about it, and she was like, yeah, there may need to be little bitty regulatory tweaks, and we talked about maybe a statutory requirement to coordinate, kind of a la House Bill 21-1071 would be a useful statutory change. But you kind of bring up this chicken and the egg problem, and I'm very much of the position that pass it and then make it feasible, because that's what Boulder did and it was successful. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where I stand on it, at least.
This came up because Landon at the last meeting said, well, have you written them a letter asking? And I mean, we've certainly talked to them, but maybe we didn't do an official letter. And he thought he could get a bunch of Courageous Colorado groups to join in on this. Is Andrea Wilkins on the call? Because she's been talking with me to Landon. We've all been talking together. No?
No, she's not here.
Okay. Wanted to give her a chance to speak up. Let's if we're done with this topic, let's go ahead and move on to the Denver election proposals there. And Patty, this is what you're focused on. And interrupt me, or if you want to read the slides and make comments, you can do that. But otherwise, I'll just go ahead. You won't have to hear me the whole meeting. Dylan has his own presentation, so that's great. So there are two elections proposals, and this is the first one. That's the one in the heading up there. And it would change the elections that are single winner, vote for one plurality voting, to instant runoff voting. And so every person would vote for 4 people using instant runoff voting: mayor, auditor, clerk and recorder, and your district council member. And Sarah Parody and Daryl Watson are the council members behind it. Meanwhile, there's one more municipal election, which is the 2 at-large council members. They would continue to be elected in a vote for 2 election, just like they are now, plurality block. And Sarah Parody said at the July 15th Finance and Governance meeting that the plan is to keep them as vote for 2 until the Denver clerk is ready to do the multi-winner proportional ranked voting. But I didn't see that clause anywhere in the draft ordinance, so it sounded like it was written in there, but I didn't see it. So, we'll talk a little bit more about that. It's Sue Stark from League of Women Voters Denver said that they're still tweaking it. They can't tweak it for much longer because it's going to first reading pretty soon. So in terms of the campaign, Landon is with Denver Deserves Democracy. I think that's the campaign committee, but they haven't filed any reports yet, or maybe they haven't registered as a campaign committee. So I don't know if that's still the case, or if they're changing their name, or if they're waiting for it to become a ballot measure. I don't know. One thing that is of note is that Denver supported Prop 131, which would have used instant runoff voting for state elections. It was like 53% to 46 or something like that. So that's hopeful in terms of getting this IRB campaign succeeding. And then
And Celeste, may I just say, to make sure, it wasn't just Denver that supported 131, it was the state league.
Absolutely, the state league supported it. Neil and I wrote a rebuttal to Michael Bennett.
I know, but it says here Denver supported it. It's everybody.
Okay. But in terms of having it pass,
Yeah,
in terms of the campaign, the thought is that since Denver supported instant runoff voting last year, they would be likely to support it this year. That's that's the, like, we want to do it now. We've got the momentum, even though it didn't pass statewide. Both the Denver League and the State League have endorsed this position, and they're part of a consortium now led by Common Cause, and other consortium members are listed there. It's a pretty interesting group. And then Sue said that outreach to Latino and Black communities has already happened, and unions are, more union outreach is planned for the future. So far, so good, Patty?
Yeah, so far so good.
Okay.
Back to the letter, make it 1 page, okay? No
The
more.
letter to the Secretary of State.
Yeah. See,
About state,
yeah.
about state issues, yeah.
1 page, yeah. And onto this, yeah, it's a dynamite group of people that have been meeting, and Common Cause is, like you said here, has led with Allie. Have you talked to her?
Allie Belknap, yeah.
Yeah. So she's the one that would answer some of your questions you had about the names. You know, are we still calling it? You know, you mentioned that you were asking questions about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's probably better if LWV Denver asks Allie that question, and because this is a Denver issue committee, so.
Okay, yeah.
So if you or Sue or Tony or Beth or somebody could do that, that would be great.
So I don't know if there is a name for the consortium, but it's a dynamite group of people, and I don't know if it's called Denver Deserves Democracy, right?
It doesn't say Denver Deserves Democracy at that website that I have listed there.
Okay.
It just says, it doesn't have a name for the group, and maybe it's because it isn't referred to the ballot yet. I mean, but last time we heard the name Denver Deserves Democracy, so I thought it was a campaign committee, but maybe it was.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So,
but I will ask Allie about it. Okay.
Okay. And maybe I should put a question mark there for Denver. I mean, because we don't know. So I will update these slides before they go to the website for the final. Okay. And then in terms of the process for getting this on the ballot and some of the details, first reading is July 28th. Second reading is August 4th. Of course, that could change, but there's not a whole lot of time, so it's not going to change much. And at the July 15th meeting, they had the wrong dates on there. So they had some discussion about what the actual dates were. And the chair of the committee was a little unhappy that I think that the dates were wrong on there. So Parity and Watson may still be tweaking some pieces of their proposal, including how to address the method of voting for the 2 at-large council members. This is that possible situation where it uses the current method until the Secretary of State or the Denver clerk can update it. So we'll try to find out that answer also. There, you know, a lot of people asked, can Denver do this? And it's all instant runoff voting. Boulder was able to do it and do a risk limiting audit. So Denver expects to be able to do it too. And I see no reason to doubt the fact that they can do that. Some people might want to make you doubt it. Just say loud and proud, Boulder can do it. Why do you think Denver can't do it? Come on. In terms of the cost, it would eliminate runoff elections. And because the 2-winner contest is the only one right now that doesn't ever have a runoff. And so all the ones that become instant runoff voting could have a runoff right now, but that would go away. And the runoff election cost $2 million the last time around. And Sue said that a substantial amount of money is set aside for voter education. That was not emphasized at the meeting. The $2 million savings was emphasized, but I think we need to be careful about saying we're going to save a lot of money. I know Boulder spent a ton of money on voter education, and we don't have a runoff. We didn't even have a mayoral election, so it's all added costs for Boulder. And so for Denver, you'll eliminate the runoff, but you'll have added costs for voter education. You'll have to pay for the license for the instant runoff voting, et cetera, et cetera. So, so that's the end of this proposal. And
Question on that last point, or actually an idea. So that's a lot of money, right? $2 million.
Yeah.
And it just strikes me as we go back to two of the previous discussions, there might well be an argument to be made that vacancy elections are now required by this new state statute. And they're also expensive, although not as expensive probably here, but it'd be interesting to know if, as I think Celeste and others have proposed, there are good ways to use a vacancy to do an use a previous election to help choose a vacancy.
So I think what you might be trying to say,
fiscal argument. Go ahead.
I think what you might be trying to say is Cambridge, Massachusetts uses a proportional voting method, proportional ranked voting, and they never have whenever they have a vacancy, they know exactly who's going to fill that vacancy because they already have they just look at the ballots from the election. They hold elections every 2 years, and people only serve for 2 years, and they just look at that previous elections ballots, and they say, oh, all these people ended up their votes counting for Neil. So we're just going to look at the next, and they already know who's going to replace Neil if Neil vacates his seat. So it's posted right after the election. So there's not a lot of work involved, but which I think is great, but I don't know if people want to go to 2-year terms. I actually think there might be we have so many vacancies. I think you'd have fewer vacancies if you had 2-year terms, but that's, I mean, Denver is its own sort of election. So I'd like to zip through the next proposal. So, or we could even skip it and let Dylan go next. This next proposal is proposing that the 2 winner council contest becomes 2 single winner contests. And right now, everybody runs together. Voters can choose up to 2. The top 2 vote getters are elected, and it doesn't matter whether they get, 200 votes or 20,000 votes or 200,000 votes. The top 2 vote getters are elected. And what the sponsors want to do is change from a 2-winner at-large council meeting to 2 concurrent single winner contests. They would just call positions A and B. Candidates would decide whether they're going to run for A or B. It could be everybody runs for A, nobody runs for B. Or, I mean, there could be kind of there's a lot of talk about that sort of situation. And the interesting thing about it is it's written knowing about the other proposal. So whatever way the district council members are elected, this proposal would just use the same method. So the current way is you'd choose 1 plurality voting. And if there's a top 2 runoff, if nobody gets over 50%. If the IRV proposal passes, you'd use IRV for these. And there are 5 council members supporting it, 2 prime sponsors. And the reasons that they give for supporting this is that right now, an at-large council member can win without getting majority support, and certainly without getting majority vote, because that's a whole thing I'm happy to talk about some other time. And then there are a lot of there are more undervotes because people might vote for 0 candidate or just vote for 1 instead of 2 candidates. And the League of Women Voters of Denver has not yet taken a stance on this proposal. And they may even wait until the city council refers it to the ballot. There are 13 council members, 5 are sponsoring this proposal, but I don't know, it might not get referred because 5 is not a majority of 13. So any quick comments on this? Because I'd like to give Dylan his fair share of time.
I just hope that LWV Denver does oppose it. I think it's a move in exactly the wrong direction.
Patty?
I don't think there's going to be any opposition. And especially since Kevin Flynn and Daryl Watson and strange couples are the prime sponsors. That says a lot to me. Those two working together, since Kevin's always been anti-ranked choice voting. Yeah.
I think it only passed out with a 1-vote margin, passed out of committee with a 1-vote margin. And one of those people that voted for it said, well, I'm voting for it to move forward because it's written okay, but that doesn't mean I'll support it in the whole council meeting. So I'm not sure, I think both of the at-large members are opposed to it. You don't see their names, Sarah Parody or Serena Gonzalez Gutierrez there. So
it would be interesting to find out how each council member feels and why. And I think we can do that with our membership contacting their council person and say,
great,
what do you think? Yeah. So and I don't think we've done that. I think we can do that. And I was thinking about my own council person. I don't see their name anywhere. So I would like to contact him and say, okay, what's going on? What do you think about this? And
I remember hearing Ruth, I think it was Ruth Greenwood. It was on the national, or maybe still is on the National League board. And she's an attorney and she's done some proportional representation cases. And she made the comment that even a multi-winner contest is better than single winner contests. So I hope that just, we don't just say, oh, do a majority of council members support it? Then we'll support it. I think it's worth doing some research on this and, talk to Neil. Why is he opposed to it? Talk to your council member. Why is your council member's name not listed there, et cetera, et cetera. So,
right. Yeah. Communication. I agree. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's the last one there. And I'm going to give it to Dylan to present. I think you can share your screen, Dylan. And just to let people know, Dylan's group uses single winner RCV to mean instant runoff voting and multi-winner RCV to mean proportional ranked voting. It's simple. It's less confusing. So let me see if I can stop sharing.
Well,
are you able to share there, Dylan? Or do you want me to share?
Let's see if I can share, and then if I can't figure it out, I might ask you to do it.
Okay.
Let's see. How is that?
We can't see it, Dylan.
No good? All right.
It's black right now.
That's no good. And that doesn't help at all?
Oh,
No
wait
good?
a minute, maybe.
Oh, maybe.
It says it's loading.
Yes.
Well, I'll give it a minute. And if we can't get there,
I'm ready to do it if you, you're good.
Good?
Yep.
All right. Well, I apologize. My internet is probably the problem. But anyway, thank you so much for having me, Celeste. I really, really appreciate it. I'm Dylan, like I said earlier. I run Ranked Choice Voting for Longmont. We are a local nonprofit. in Longmont, which is actually a split county municipality in Boulder and Weld counties, and we're advocating for the use of ranked choice voting, which we're defining to mean either of the two ranked voting methods authorized in Colorado state law to elect all of the elected officials in our town, which happen to be only the 7 members of our city council. So I just want to dive in. I just went and presented the deck. Does that still look good to everybody?
Looks better.
Okay, perfect. Beautiful. So I just wanted to real quick give a summary of kind of where our proposal stands, what we're hoping to get out of it, and what it could mean for the efforts to promote alternative voting methods in Colorado more generally. So I'll start, I guess, with what ranked choice voting could look like here in our town. Longmont is governed by a 7-member city council. The 7 members of its city council are the only elected officials in our city. And this is my little diagram of what how the city council is constituted right now. So there is, we use a council manager system of municipal government, meaning that we have our mayor is not the head of an independent executive branch, but rather the presiding officer of our city council. She is elected at large. And then the other 6 city council members are divided into 1 of 2 groups. 3 are elected from 1 of 3 wards or districts. Those are single member wards. And then the other 3 are elected at large, much like the mayor. But we use, in my opinion, a convoluted and unnecessary stagger to elect these positions. So the mayor has 2-year terms where we run a regular city election in November of every odd numbered year. So we're going to have one here in 2025. We'll have the next one in 2027, so on and so forth. The mayor is elected for 2 years every single time we have an election. The other city council members are elected every other election because they serve 4-year terms as opposed to 2-year terms. And we have this weird little stagger where wards 1 and 3 and 1 at-large member are elected in one cycle, and then in the other cycle, Ward 2 and the other 2 at-large members are elected. And so we pick one plurality voting, which is the type of voting that most people are familiar with for every office, except when these 2 at-large people are elected at the same time. And in that case, we use vote for 2 plurality, which is basically, yeah, it's what it sounds like. You get to pick 2 candidates, and your vote counts for both of those candidates. And the people with the top 2 vote getters win that election. So that's what we're working with now. And what I'm calling it the proposed ranked electoral system, or PRESS, because I like to abbreviate things. And this is our proposal. Importantly, we are not aiming or currently planning to change the number of city council members or the split between at-large and wards. So we're going to stick with 7. We're going to stick with the directly elected mayor, 3 at-large members, and then 3 ward members. But we'd like to do it this way, where we have the mayor elected every time still for 2-year terms. Everybody else still has a 4-year term. But then in one cycle, we elect all of the ward members using single winner ranked choice voting or instant runoff voting. And then in the other cycle, we elect all of the at-large members at the same time in a 3-winner proportional ranked voting race. And so that's kind of where we're moving. I think that the advantages of this system is, again, it doesn't rock the boat too much by preserving the current number and type of council members. So again, 1 mayor, 3 ward, and 3 at large. We use single winner ranked choice voting, instant runoff voting to combat the spoiler effect and also mitigate the need for strategic voting. You're like, well, I really want to vote for this person, but I don't really see them as having a great shot at winning. And so I'm going to vote for one of the 2 front runners who I do think might win, even though I don't really like either of them. And I think a lot of people have that negative experience with single winner plurality, and that's something that instant runoff voting can fix very easily. And then we also use multi-winner ranked choice voting to ensure that the at-large council members reflect Longmont's electorate as a whole, because as you all know, proportional ranked voting is a proportional representation method of voting. And so we would then get a city council that is more ideologically diverse and better represents the electorate instead of just the plurality viewpoint, in a kind of a winner take all fashion. This is a transition period. I mean, it's not super important but to get from where we are now to where we want to go, we would just have to replace pick one plurality voting with instant runoff voting or single winner ranked choice voting. And then we would have to replace the vote for X plurality voting method with multi-winner ranked choice voting or proportional ranked voting. And then we would also have to do a little swap between the council member who's elected from Ward 2 and the one at-large member who's elected in the other cycle. And the way we would do that is give each of them a 2-year term once, and that would kind of reshuffle them back onto the cycle with their fellow either ward members or at-large members. And so what that would look like in practice, our goal, I should probably mention, is to have the city vote on this or some version of this in 2026, and then begin implementing with the regular city election scheduled to occur, I should say, in 2027. And so here, the 2027 election would be transitional. So we'd be electing the mayor using IRV for a 2-year term. The wards 1 and 3 would each be elected using IRV for a 4-year term, but then this at-large member would be elected for a 2-year term instead of the normal 4-year term. And that would then shuffle them on to the 2029 election cycle, where we'd still have the mayor using IRV for a 2-year term. And then this person is now over in the 2029 cycle, and we'd use PRV for the first time in 2029 to elect all 3 at-large members. And then in addition, in 2029, we'd be electing the Ward 2 member for a 2-year term. And then after that,
Betsy has her hand up.
Betsy, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
So the lesson we learned in Idaho was we spent a lot of time trying to explain ranked choice voting to voters. But we should have spent more time telling them how their life would be better, how they would be more clearly represented. So be careful to not bury voters in all these steps.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I'll tell you that this is a presentation that I'm not, I don't share generally. I'm sharing it because I figured that you guys, as people who are interested in the nuts and bolts behind how we're going to get more alternative voting methods, would be interested. But when I'm, out talking to voters during signature gathering or tabling, that kind of stuff, we're not getting into this stuff. We're getting into how do you rank people on a ballot, and what might that mean for you in terms of your experience with our local government? So I appreciate the feedback, and I wholeheartedly agree. I absolutely agree.
So Dylan, in terms of the weeds here, I think that I hope that you get it on the ballot and that it passes in 2026. And because I'm pretty skeptical that you're going to be able to do multi-winner proportional ranked voting in 2027. I hope you can do it in 2029. The fact that Longmont is in Weld County and Boulder County is going to make it is another obstacle. They haven't even gotten instant run for both counties yet. So, but they should by 2027, I think.
Yeah, they should. I mean, technically, they're required to do it by January 26, and they're going to blow by that deadline. There's no way they're gonna make that happen. I went into my conversation with Stephanie, and I was thinking, oh, this is not going to be pretty. She's going to tell me, go away, come back to me when you have, more information for me, or when this is actually closer to adoption. And she was so kind and accommodating, and said, very much, she said, if this is the choice that Longmont makes, we're going to figure out a way to make this happen for you guys. And so I was very, very happy to hear that. And there are those small logistical pieces that that are kind of holding up progress across the state more generally. But it's my position and my strong belief that you just got to go for it, and you're going to have to clean up the logistical stuff on the back end, because when you ask agencies like the Secretary of State, like the county clerks, who I'm not sure if you're familiar with Dwight Shellman of the Secretary of State's office, but Dwight says, look, we're lazy. If we don't have to do something, we're not gonna. And so he's like, give us a reason to do something, and then we'll probably get something done. And so that's kind of how we're approaching stuff here in Longmont, at least.
I think we might want to include 2029 Longmont as in the letter that we send,
Sure.
because no matter what, if you don't start in 2027, because it takes another year, because everything always takes longer than you think, and you start in 2029, you're going to have at least a 2-winner proportional ranked voting election, because that's when you elect your 2. So yeah, okay, great.
And anyway, I mean, so after that, going into 2031 and 2033, we would get onto that regular cycle, which would just become the norm from then on. And we are fairly convinced that this change would need to be take the form of an amendment to Longmont City Charter, which would require like what Denver is doing. Although I do not think Denver is technically, I think it's an ordinance and not a charter amendment. But I could.
No, it has to be voted on. I mean, it can be an ordinance that puts it on the ballot, but it's a charter amendment, so it will have to be voted on by the voters. Isn't that right, Patty? It will have to be voted on by the voters.
It definitely will have to be voted on by the voters. I'm just not certain if it amends their city code or their city charter. In Longmont, it will definitely have to be the city charter. And
the 2-winner at large changing to 2 single winner, that's a charter amendment. So I think they're both charter amendments.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that would make total sense. But anyway, that means very similarly. Oh, go ahead. Was someone wanting to chime in or not? Did I mishear something?
Why don't you go ahead?
Never mind.
Continue.
Anyway, so it would be a very, very similar process. We would have to have the city council vote to refer it to the ballot, and then we would have to have Longmont voters approve it in referendum. It would just be a majority winning threshold, so just 50% plus 1. And we're making, honestly, we've given ourselves a year and a half. We're not hoping to have this done until November 26th, but the momentum that we've already been able to pick up is kind of far exceeding my expectations. We're on track, and we'd like to get 1,000 signatures on a petition to city council by the time that the new city council convenes in December. We're on track to do that right now. We have a record number of candidates declaring to run in this year's city election. I think we have 4 open seats and 14 candidates right now, 4 for mayor, 3 for Ward 2, and I think we're up to 8 in the 2-winner at-large race. And so I think that this election is going to be particularly demonstrative of the fact that ranked choice voting will help. When you get crazy numbers of candidates like that, we're looking at having somebody being elected to city council at large with 15% or less of the vote. And that just isn't a great look. It's not a solid mandate. And then with the single winner side, we're having several races that are at least, in my kind of informal analysis, very likely to be susceptible to the spoiler effect, to one candidate prevailing over a majority viewpoint, because that majority viewpoint was split between several different candidates. And so we're very, very hopeful I think we're right where we need to be, if not past where we need to be in order to get this done when we want to get this done. Yeah, we're excited. We're super
Neil
excited.
has his hand up.
Go ahead, Neil.
Just a quick question. I think you said, and I might have missed something, elected with 15% of the vote. And I wonder what percent of the ballot you think people would need, because quoting percent of vote is a particularly challenging thing if people get to cast 2 votes. Are you talking percent of the vote or percent of the ballots?
All but one of the elections is vote for one, so it matters in the vote for 2 one, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you've got 8 candidates running, and yes, you're right, you do have those 2 votes, but 15 was a somewhat arbitrary figure, but my point is that we're having a very high number of candidates running, and so that issue, like Celeste was talking about earlier, when you have when you're using that kind of a voting method, there's a lot of wasted votes, right? There's a lot of people who are going to be cast ballots for people that won't produce a winner, for losing candidates, and it will be and again, you'll just see people come into office, I think, with very low shares of the total vote, and that will be interesting to see how that shakes out, and something that I think that people won't be huge fans of.
I just want to, because you're talking about some elections with 2 winners, the way they report the result.
Neil, we'll
is really
send.
bad. So I would suggest always talk about percent of ballots to be clear about something that's meaningful instead of percent of vote.
We'll send the KGNU story and the Boulder Beat article to Dylan so he can see them.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd be happy to.
And I wanted to say, I think that the Boulder County League of Women Voters should ask the candidates in Vote 411 about single winner and multi-winner ranked voting. So I thought that was something for us to do, so that to give your group a little buzz.
I'd love that. I'm actually in the process, I've been like I said, I think we're up to 8 + 3 + 4 is like 15. We're up to 15 candidates now. And so I'm actually making the rounds. I'm trying to meet with every one of them individually. We're actually, I think we're already up to a majority of candidates saying, yeah, this is a good idea. This is something that we want. I'm hoping to, and we're sending out our own survey to those people, and we're hoping to get a little infographic or post something on our website that says, here are all the candidates running for each of the positions this year, and here's what they think of ranked choice. And we would love for you to get their thoughts more generally or more specifically, or just in addition. But I am definitely aware of, we want to be getting candidate positions on this issue.
Dylan, I think that whenever you go talk to people, don't just do it all by yourself. I hope that you take other people with you so they can hear what you say and get more well-versed in talking about these things, so that the load doesn't fall entirely on you. I know that your website has multiple people and maybe some of them are busy, but you could just drag along somebody else who's like generally in favor, and it's a great education opportunity. They might ask a question that would spark something.
Yeah. I try, like it's it helps to be a college student on summer break, because you have a little bit more free time to do that kind of stuff. But I definitely, and that's something that honestly, one of the biggest pieces is we're seeing a lot of people being like, oh yeah, that's a really great idea, I would really support that. But significantly less people saying, okay, well, would you show up at a tabling event to help us make this happen? And that's kind of, volunteer recruitment. So if you folks know of anybody in Longmont who you want to pass this along to, we would just love as many people's help as we possibly can get.
Okay, thanks so much for all this information.
Yeah.
We'll be in touch. I have some more things to ask you about. I'm we're pretty much done. We have one last thing. I thought it might be nice to just talk about the fact that the National League has declared that the U.S. is in a constitutional crisis, and I didn't know if people wanted to just talk about their experiences at any of the rallies, or last time Danny Klein mentioned the American Democracy Summit, but he said he might not be able to make this meeting to give a more full report. I promised my husband 7:10 hard stop, so I'm gonna turn this off at 7:10. If you all want to stay on, that's okay, but I think we'll stop the recording by then because we're already past time. I did want to make sure everybody here is aware of the Unite and Rise 8.5 campaign. It's in response to this declaration that the U.S. is in a full-blown constitutional crisis. And it encourages nonviolent resistance to authoritarianism. The reason that this 8.5 number came up is that history shows that if 3.5% of the US population is activated for a collective cause, we can bring about the desired change. And 3.5% of the US population is 8.5 million people. And if you would like to commit to be part of that 8.5 million people and tell your friends, go to www.lwv.org/Unite and Rise. You don't have to be a league member, so strongly encourage everybody to get your voice out there as if you agree that the U.S. is in a constitutional crisis, or you're just very worried that we are getting so close to it. And is there anything else anybody wants to say? I'm going to stop sharing so I can see people's faces. I appreciate everybody coming.
Well done. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming, Vicki. Do you have any comments you want to make? Since
I don't have anything. I was kind of just observing on the first time, but I'm a I do like the idea of ranked choice voting, and I want to figure out how to make it work.
there are actually a number of voting methods out there, so I always encourage people to check out a variety of them because different circumstances work better with different voting methods. A book club, you might not want to use a ranked voting method. You might want to use approval voting because you have a different goal. You're not looking for, you're looking for something different. So, okay.
I would like to add one more thing. This is Patty
Yeah.
again. I was gone for a little bit, but Dylan, it's so happy. I'm so happy to see young people involved with this kind of discussion. And I think you might consider running for Secretary of State one day. Okay. That's all.
Thank you, Patty. I appreciate that. I think you have to be like 25 or something like that to run for Secretary of State, but I'd love to.
You've got some time to think about it.
By the way, there are at least two Democratic candidates, serious Democratic candidates for Secretary of State. Amanda Gonzalez, who used to be head of Colorado Common Cause and is the Jefferson County clerk. She threw her hat in, and then just this past week or so, Jesse Danielson, who is a state senator and has run some election bills. And I think she used to be head of America Votes. She is threw her hat into the ring. So it'll be competitive, at least in the Democratic primary. I don't know if any Republicans are running or not. I want to say that Dylan's best friend is a former student of mine and is one of the leaders of Rank the Vote Michigan, right? Yeah. So there are a lot of.
He's back in town. I almost dragged him to this meeting. But, yeah,
Okay. Well, tell someone I said hi.
I will.
Okay. And so I do think that voting methods is a way, voting methods as a league topic is a way to get younger people and men involved in voting methods or in the league. And also, you know, if we can talk about proportional representation, that can be a draw for more diverse ethnicities and things like that. So, but that's a little more complicated. So, okay. I'm going to head out of here.
Want me to stop the recording?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Patty,